our specific overlay in terms of ADHD and an anxious attachment, and that particular combo has been hard.
I was diagnosed with ADHD in college. I had always thought coping skills, but I don't know if you understood the degree to which you contributed this poorly. Like, it was easy for me to be like, oh, our kids are interrupting me constantly. They're little, they have needs, and they don't self-regulate. But it was really hard for me to understand why you.
As an anxiously attached person, I would come to you just as bids for connection. So it might be something simple. And I'm like, hey, the kids have something going on Wednesday afternoon. What time was that? Was that at 2? And the thing is, on the calendar, I could go find that. It wasn't about the labor as much as it was just like, are we in this together? Which for you is a default. Of course we're in this together.
Yeah.
Look around you.
I live with you. I have 4 children with you. Like, what? I married you. I took your last name. What more do you need?
What more do you need? Yeah. But for me, it was like in this moment, are we together? And everything to do with like my own insecurity, which was hard for me to admit. I didn't view them as interruptions because they would not have been interruptions to me.
Right.
Because if you came to me and I was in the middle of a task and said, hey, what time is that thing on Thursday? Yeah. I would stop my task and say 7 and go right back to my task. And that's not what your experience of life is like.
Yeah. That's not how my brain works.
Yeah, I didn't get that for years.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how that didn't go well.
I think I was pretty patient with it for like the first 10. Once we had more and more kids, I started to be like, can you just stop? Like, please stop interrupting me. Like, you don't need my time right now. And he's like, what's the big deal? Why are you being so mean about this? Yeah, and I was having a really hard time communicating. Like, my brain doesn't work the way yours works. Like, I need this like runway of space and time to get momentum, to get going inside my own brain to do the work ahead of me. Yeah. And if you continually interrupt me, I cannot get this done. Yeah,
I was still filtering everything through my own lens of how this would feel to me, which obviously is not how you function as a good partner in a relationship.
Yeah, anger is actually something I'm really comfortable with. It's an emotion I go to quite easily, which I think is like interesting. We don't identify women with anger. We're like, men are the ones that get to be angry and women can't be at that. But anytime I would express something in anger, he would belittle it or dismiss it. We'd been raised in this Christian paradigm, and anger is one of those things that got talked about as like a shameful emotion. And I'm not sure if you internalized it that way or just like you took it personally every time.
I took it personally. It's like, that's not allowed.
Right. Like, you're not allowed to be angry. You can express that angrily. Yeah. And like, no, anytime I was angry, it was like really important to me. I'm like, I need you to know that this isn't okay. Yeah. And I wish I had better like language. I'm not a person that actually identifies with language very strongly. Right. Like, I don't think in words. I actually have to translate everything that happens in my brain into words. No matter what language I'm speaking, even if it's my native language of English.
No, I didn't get that either.
Yeah.
Yeah. So much of the way you thought about the world, which I loved the way you moved through the world, but it never occurred to me that it was because you thought about the world differently.
And I think that's something that I don't know if enough people talk about in relationship.
I loved the way you moved through the world, but it never occurred to me that it was because you thought about the world differently.
And I think that's something that I don't know if enough people talk about in relationship. And this is one of the things I've recently made a bunch of videos about the work of relationship. And one of the things that I don't hear anyone talking about, it would often center the way he did something as the norm. He would even say that, like, that's not normal. He would accuse me of being abnormal. And I'm like, no. There's a lot of different ways to do things. We are just different, and we have to bridge the gap between us. And he was like, no, we don't. The way I do things is right. You need to come to me.
The way I do things is the way bureaucracy works. Who wants to be in a bureaucracy?
In your house.
In your house.
Or ever.
Or ever. But I just thought that was the default way. I wish I could have really seen you before.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't realize that my attempts to help you were actually harming you.
So we've now figured that out, that he's anxious, and if there's a moment that he needs to comfort or love, he needs to ask for consent.
Mm-hmm. Well, also that the anxiety was a me problem, not a you problem.
Right.
So, like, how do I find peace and solace within myself so I don't have to look for somebody to validate me every 4 seconds, right? That's too much for anybody.
I wish that was an exaggeration.
Me too.
It's kind of true.
Me too. But yeah, we're working on it. And that space, I think, is helping.
Yeah. No, my life is totally changed. I'm able to get things done in ways I was never able to do in our marriage before because you're leaving me alone.
Yeah. On that anxious attachment, like, I didn't feel like I could move forward unless somebody told me it was okay. I wanted someone to complete my circle. I wanted someone to say it's going to be okay. But for you, it's like, of course it's going to be okay. And because those words didn't come or that attention didn't come, it would cause me to kind of cycle back on myself. So even when I was initially leaving you alone, I wasn't doing well. I was just thinking about when can I come back and see if I'm okay?
Yeah.
That's a question for me, not a question for my partner.
You're an anxious perseverator. So you're anxious and you perseverate. Which for the longest time, I had like deep empathy for your anxiousness. And I'm like, okay, I thought that there would be like, I could just meet his needs. All right, he's anxious. I'll come be close. I'll come reconnect. I'll help him feel really included and connected to me right now. It took me far too long to realize. I was like, the call is coming from inside the house, and it does not matter how much I stop my life or comfort him or meet his needs or come to his level or communicate in ways that feel comfortable to him. He never feels better.
That's true.
It doesn't matter how hard I work. And the work I had done at that point in my life, I'm like, I have literally burned myself out. I have nothing left to give.
You called me an emotional black hole one day.
I did.
And that really hit me though. I was like, oh.
I was like, I'm throwing love and energy at something that will literally just get sucked into the ether, gone forever.
Yeah.
And it does not matter how hard I work on this. If he does not work on this, it means nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the work now.